Hello everyone. This is chapter 22 from my contemporary romance novel Under A Namibian Sky. The days that followed were a blur, but Naomi was determined to be there for Auntie Elsa, to help her enjoy whatever time was left to them. Only in the privacy of her room at night did she give way to tears and wrestle with the all-consuming fear that death was claiming yet another important person in her life. It was familiar territory. She knew only too well the devastating feelings of loss, grief, and aloneness that would be her companions after Auntie Elsa's death. Would she be prepared for the pain that no pills could ease? Would she be able to climb out of the dark hole of despair once again? Last time she'd been a child, nearly still a baby. She was an adult now. That made all the difference. Ever practical, Kerry had called a meeting. She'd informed the staff of Auntie Elsa's illness and the short time she'd been given to enjoy the last days of her life. Instead of the news casting a heavy darkness over the lodge, everyone seemed to want to help Auntie Elsa enjoy every moment she still had on this earth. The news had pulled the staff together like nothing before. Many of them were grateful to Auntie Elsa, her father before her and his father before him, for their employment through generations. They appreciated and loved the fairness she'd always shown them. Now it was their turn to repay her. Kerry made sure the guests didn't know. It would make no difference to their stay at Desert Lodge. Auntie Elsa had told Santina herself. As a result, they brought the date of their birthday party forward. Kerry had hired more staff, and the lodge was a hive of activity as preparations for Auntie Elsa and Santina's joint birthday party got underway. No one voiced it, but everyone knew it was more than just a birthday party. It was also a farewell to one of the most wonderful, kind souls they'd ever known. Within days, Santina and her Italian friends and family arrived. It was clear Santina had told them about Auntie Elsa's situation. In their typical warm Italian way, they took her under their wings, advising how to be more comfortable and how to enjoy the last few weeks of her life best. They seemed to revel in their role. Luca had arranged for another chef who specialized in Italian cuisine to work with Chef. Kerry had hired more kitchen helpers to cater to the sell-out lodge. Luca became even more caring toward Naomi. His wonder of her had increased. She seemed so feminine, so fragile. How was she even coping with so many traumas following one after the other? He had to give her credit for being stronger than he'd imagined. His heart swelled with admiration and pride as he kept an eye on her. He so badly wanted to talk things through with her, to make things right between them again. But now wasn't the time. Seeing her being so brave, despite the sadness he felt from her, tested his patience in every way. He wanted to hold her, love her, and kiss away her sorrow. But not wanting to intrude on her grief, he spent most of his time with his fellow Italians. When he interacted with her, he kept things light. He felt grateful that she still observed their early morning swimming schedule each day, though he wouldn't blame her if she hadn't. Her commitment meant a lot. It was the only time he was alone with her these days. Naomi was sitting with Auntie Elsa in her room. They sat together on the sofa every morning now, drinking tea and watching TV. Auntie Elsa liked to watch the news each morning and afternoon, but today they were early. 20 minutes remained until the news. It allowed them to talk about whatever crossed their minds, easily jumping from subject to subject. Auntie Elsa smiled at Naomi, grateful for the time they were sharing. "So, what's been going on with you and Luca? It's clear as daylight you're in love with each other, but I can see only shadows in your eyes, darling. I don't want to sound crass, especially given my current circumstances, but you know time is precious and so short." Naomi winced. She hadn't expected Auntie Elsa to talk to her about Luca in such a straightforward way. But then, time was running out, wasn't it? For the first time, it truly hit home. Auntie Elsa would die in a few weeks. Naomi felt her face flush. She wouldn't allow the tears that burned behind her eyes to spoil the time she was enjoying with this wonderful, inspirational woman. But a light bulb had gone off in her mind. The words Auntie Elsa spoke, "Time is precious and life so short," had always been only words. But now the truth of those words was impressed upon Naomi. Life was short. Time with those she loved was precious. Before she could respond, Auntie Elsa continued. "I do wish you and Luca would sort out whatever is the matter between the two of you. Seeing you together reminds me so much of Vota and me when we were young. We were so in love. I'll be going home to my dear Vota. He was the love of my life, you know, my soulmate. I'm not scared to die, and I don't want you to be afraid of death either, my darling. Truth be told, I'm rather excited about seeing him soon. I'm looking forward to being with him again. Life has just not been the same since he died. I want such happiness for you. You certainly deserve it. You brought such joy into our home and our lives. I'm more than grateful for you, my dear Naomi. I feel so blessed." Auntie Elsa's smile conveyed her deep love for Naomi. "I cannot imagine what my life would have been like without you or Vota in it. Much poorer, I would have thought. Don't waste your opportunity, Naomi. Here is Luca, a wonderful man, deeply in love with you. Don't run away from love. Don't hide from it. It's all we have, you know, love. It's all that matters. We come into this world alone and we leave alone again. We bring nothing with us other than love, and we can't take anything with us but love. It's everything. It expands your life, your soul." Naomi sat still. In the silence that followed Auntie Elsa's words, she understood with supreme clarity that this was the ultimate truth. This simple message from a woman on the brink of death. It was Auntie Elsa's last gift to her. Suddenly her reasons for not allowing herself to love Luca seemed so silly, not only given Auntie Elsa's words, but also in the glimpse Auntie Elsa had shown of an eternity of love that awaited her. Naomi felt comforted that Auntie Elsa seemed to take her death so much in her stride, as though it was just a part of her life. Auntie Elsa, apparently satisfied that Naomi understood what she'd meant, focused her attention on the TV just as the news came on. "Oh, look! Isn't that Stefan? How did he make it on the news? Turn up the volume, will you, Naomi, please?" The women watched in amazement as picture after picture of Stefan posing in front of a dead elephant appeared on the screen. He was beaming, holding on to a massive elephant gun. The elephant's tusks had been removed and were lying at his feet. The newscaster's voice became clearer as Naomi pressed the volume button on the remote control she held in her hand. "Massive outcry against this man, Stefan Sawaski. The American allegedly paid $100,000 for the privilege of shooting the elephant. Police in Namibia have said they urgently want to speak to the American tech CEO on poaching charges, but his whereabouts are unknown. Naomi couldn't believe what she was seeing. Stefan had visited the elephant orphanage. They had introduced him to the orphan delis, and he had befriended Johan. Surely he knew how hard everyone was fighting against poachers, and here he was, killing elephants. She turned to Auntie Elsa, her eyes full of anger. "I can't believe that man. How the hell did he get away with that?" Auntie Elsa frowned. "I'm wondering how it made the news. I'm pretty sure Stefan wouldn't have shared it with a news channel, not if he's disappeared, don't you think?" The sharp rap on the door was Kerry's signature knock. The door opened immediately, her face peeping around it. Behind her, Santina peered over Kerry's shoulder. Their smiles were the biggest Naomi had ever seen. Something was up. "Can we come in?" Auntie Elsa smiled and nodded, patting the sofa beside her for Santina to sit down. "Please do." Naomi scooted nearer Auntie Elsa, making space for Kerry to sit beside her. Something was going on. Kerry could barely contain her excitement. Naomi, who knew her friend well, could see how much Kerry was struggling not to blurt out whatever news they'd brought. "Did you see Stefan? He's on all the news channels all over the world." Auntie Elsa's frown deepened. "I was just saying to Naomi how amazing that he made the news, especially if he's gone into hiding like they say he has. It makes little sense." Santina and Kerry craned their necks around the other two women to share a conspiratorial wink. They made as big a show as they could. Naomi couldn't suppress her giggle at their antics. Suddenly, realization dawned. "Wait a minute, don't tell me you both had something to do with this." Santina and Kerry spoke in unison, the innocence on their faces exaggerated. "No!" Kerry could no longer contain herself. Practically fizzing with glee, she stood and took up a stance beside the TV facing her small audience. "It was Luca! Isn't it clever of him? He found a private Twitter account that belongs to Stefan. Luca followed him and leaked Stefan's pictures to his contacts at several news agencies. Stefan has had to go into hiding because of the pictures on Twitter and other social media networks have gone viral. It's so cool." Kerry held her breath as she waited for the effect of her words on Naomi and Auntie Elsa. The air of expectation in the room reminded Naomi of Christmas, when a treasured gift might summon similar behaviour. She had to ask, "How do you know?" Santina craned her head around Auntie Elsa to respond to Naomi. "Just before I came here, Luca asked that I shred some papers in his office. I came across several with information that wasn't his usual work, so I didn't want to make a mistake. I called him to ask about it, and he told me. He asked that I keep it to myself until the news broke on TV. He's very clever, that boy." Naomi had forgotten Santina was Luca's secretary. They looked so much alike. In Naomi's mind, they were mother and son. They certainly seemed to care that way for each other. Auntie Elsa was first to respond. She clapped her hands together, her eyes bright, a huge smile on her face. "I never wish anyone ill, but after what Stefan did to Naomi, this is a much better punishment than merely throwing him in jail. I don't think he'd be too fond of a public humiliation like this. Yes, Luca is very clever. Where is he anyway? I'd like to congratulate him." Naomi's head reeled. She hadn't imagined that Luca would come to her rescue so spectacularly. But Auntie Elsa was right. A worldwide humiliation would be far more devastating to Stefan. He wouldn't be able to bribe or buy himself out of this one. Santina stood and helped Auntie Elsa to stand. "We left Luca sitting by the pool. He likes the morning sun there." Kerry went to Auntie Elsa's other side, and together the two women helped Auntie Elsa to walk slowly from the room. Naomi followed, carrying her shrug, and took the throw from her bed for her legs. Naomi was mindful that, despite the day's heat, Auntie Elsa's rapid weight loss meant she got cold very quickly. The women made their way down the long corridor and went through the guest lounge's French doors out onto the patio that led to the pool. Naomi's heart sped up when she saw Luca lying on a sun lounger near the lapa. He'd crossed his long legs at his ankles. Dark sunglasses shielded his eyes against the ferocious sun. He was in a relaxed pose, his arms by his side. His naked, toned torso had turned a deep golden brown from spending a few hours each day in the hot Namibian sun. The rhythmic movement of his stomach showed that he was fast asleep. Santina and Kerry helped Auntie Elsa into a chair in the lapa so she could sit in the shade. They made sure she had a view over the pool where a few people were swimming and chatting. Naomi draped the shrug around her shoulders and covered her legs with a throw. Meanwhile, Santina went to touch Luca on the shoulder to wake him up. He pulled on the t-shirt he'd rolled up under his head and followed her to sit beside Auntie Elsa. Naomi and Kerry had pulled up more chairs to form a small circle. Auntie Elsa put a thin hand on Luca's muscular, tanned arm. "Thank you, Luca. We just saw Stefan's pictures on the news. Kerry and Santina told us what you'd done. You're a good man. I feel comforted because you will be here to look after Naomi when I'm gone." Naomi felt her face flush at Auntie Elsa's words, but Luca's dark eyes, now without his sunglasses, smiled at Naomi. "I'll do my best if she'll allow me." Naomi was aware of the double take Santina and Kerry gave each other. Did she just hear what she thought she'd heard? The blood rushing to her head made her ears ring. Auntie Elsa patted Luca's arm. "That's good to know, my boy. You'll forgive me, but your words sounded like a proposal. Am I the only one to think so?" She looked around for confirmation from the others. Santina and Kerry nodded, their eyes travelling between Luca and Naomi. Luca grinned at Auntie Elsa. "I haven't asked her formally, but I believe it's customary to speak to her parent first." Auntie Elsa's smile stretched over her mouth, her eyes brimming with happy tears. "I couldn't wish for a better man for my Naomi, Luca. I know you'll look after her, and she will be happy with you for the rest of her life." Everyone except Auntie Elsa got up, as though the excitement of the news forced them from their chairs. Tears were already streaming down Santina's face. She pressed her cheek to Auntie Elsa's and hugged her friend's shoulders. "Oh, this is such a happy day! I'm so glad you're here to witness it, my dear friend!" Kerry and Santina took turns to congratulate and hug Naomi and Luca. Afterward, Luca put her arm around Naomi's shoulder and pulled her close to his body, as though he'd never let her go again. His eyes travelled over the three women in front of him. "Thank you, Auntie Elsa, for your consent and the good wishes from you all. Now I just hope Naomi will make me the happiest man in the universe." He turned to plant a gentle kiss on Naomi's cheek. But before she could respond, Otayan and another Herero man appeared around the corner. They seemed excited and made a beeline for Luca. "The truck with the buggy is here, boss man. It just arrived. This man brought it." After Luca had shaken hands with the courier of the buggy, he, Naomi and Kerry followed the two men to a massive truck parked near the kitchen. On it, a brand new, gleaming prototype dune buggy sat like a powerful, shimmering desert insect. Luca was as excited as a kid in a candy shop. He walked around the truck to check there weren't any scratches on the buggy, even though it was only the prototype. The courier handed Luca the keys to the buggy before he lowered the truck. Meanwhile, Otayan helped to undo the strong straps that held the buggy in place during its long journey from Windhoek. Luca got up onto the truck and climbed into the buggy, ready to reverse it off the truck, grinning like a schoolboy. Naomi couldn't help smiling at his obvious excitement. Boys and their toys. Did they ever grow up? She was still reeling from what had happened in the Lapa. Luca wanted to marry her? Had he asked Auntie Elsa's consent to marry her? It felt like a fairy tale. They hadn't fixed whatever went wrong between them yet. It was now more important than ever to have a heart-to-heart with him and find out what went wrong. Her emotions went off in different directions. She couldn't believe what he'd done. Was it just a spur-of-the-moment thing or an impulsive action on his part? But the Luca she'd come to know didn't strike her as a man who'd do anything without thinking it through thoroughly first. So she had to trust he'd meant to talk to Auntie Elsa about marrying her all along. Kerry had her arm around Naomi's shoulders and gave her a squeeze, accompanied by a huge smile. "So happy for you, hon! So happy for you!" Naomi returned Kerry's smile, but was relieved and grateful for the interlude given her by the buggy's arrival. It felt as though she was walking on air, swept along by a whirlwind of events beyond her control. She just needed a little time to get grounded again. After Luca had got the buggy off the truck, he bounded over to her, his smile dazzling, his eyes glittering with excitement. He grabbed her hand. "Come, amore, touch it! The special alloy it's been sprayed with will prevent the sand from scratching it, even in high winds. Isn't it clever?" Naomi allowed him to lead her over to the buggy. Luca held his hand on top of hers as she glided her hand along the smooth form of the buggy. Luca's grin widened as he saw the surprise in her eyes at the sensation under her hand. "Let's go test it." "What? Now?" "Yes, now. Why not? Isn't it beautiful?" Kerry and Naomi laughed together at Luca, moving foot to foot, unable to contain his excitement. Naomi touched his arm. It felt different somehow, touching him now he was hers. "Why don't we have lunch first, and see if the storm will miss us?" Luca looked up into the blue, cloudless sky. "What storm?" Otayan, having bid the courier farewell, walked over to him. He too looked up into the sky, squinting, and angled a hand above his eyes to shield them from the intense sunlight. The old man pointed toward the desert. "That one, boss man. It's a big one. But Nonna is right, it may pass here." Luca squinted in the direction Otayan and Naomi indicated, but he couldn't see anything that looked remotely like a storm. "Okay, since you both know more about these things than I do, let's have lunch first. I'm starved anyway." He took Naomi's hand and led the way back to the Lapa, where Auntie Elsa and Santina awaited them. Thank you for listening, thank you for watching, thank you for liking and sharing my videos, and most of all, thank you very much for subscribing to my channel. If you click the little bell icon, you'll be notified when the next video goes live. So until next time.